Everyone knows we believe the science on PCC, and a new study has come out claiming that the most attractive men and the least attractive men are both equally misogynistic, whereas men in the middle are ambivalent towards women. This says
wait, so just everybody's bad? Like,
no, I mean, you shouldn't be like a simp, right? But the men on the extremes, they claim, who are the most attractive and the least attractive, are the most misogynistic. They have the most hostility towards women. This is from the Scandinavian Journal of Psychology. And they say that this is a recent study of men in the UK. And this is the funny part. It's those who perceive themselves as either the most attractive or the least attractive show the highest levels of hostility towards women compared to men who perceive themselves to be average looking.
So it's your own projection of either your self-hatred or your overt love of self?
Right. I think that's the claim that kind of debunks the whole study, right?
Okay.
Nobody has an accurate view of their own attractiveness. If they wanted to find out what the most attractive and least attractive men feel about women, they would have women rate the men, well, right?
Pardon me for taking from a red pill talking point for a minute here, but wasn't there like a study done that said like men rate themselves more evenly than women, or no, men rate women more evenly than women rate men?
Women
okay.
Only find like the like 2 out of 10. Yeah. Only,
okay. Then if you're looking for an objective standard, right?
Well, it changes once a woman gets to know a guy.
Yes.
So like when she initially meets him, she's either like he's beautiful or he doesn't exist. So, but once she gets to know him, like if they're in a working environment or whatever, then it becomes an actual realistic kind of thing where they're like, oh, well, you know, he's not so bad. And I like, oh, actually, he's kind of cute and blah, blah, blah. But they have to get to know him. If it's just on looks, it's either he's hot or he doesn't exist.
It's a binary.
Yeah,
you're either a 0 or a 1. I've always said this. But I guess if they would look for an objective standard, fine. Have other men rate the attractiveness of the men in the study. Not themselves.
Dudes aren't going to do that because they're afraid to be called gay.
Well, if you pay them with an Amazon gift card, whatever it takes, you have to get the science done. This says they additionally found that men with strong right-wing authoritarian beliefs were also more likely to be hostile towards women.
Shocker.
What are the authoritarian beliefs?
What I'm wondering is what their standard is for hostility towards women, because I'm sure if I took the test, they would find that I'm extremely misogynistic, but that doesn't reflect my real attitudes towards women, being one myself.
I don't believe that.
You don't believe that?
No.
Maybe we'll debate that. But this says both misogyny and sexism perpetuate gender-based inequality. These attitudes not only harm women, but also contribute to rigid gender roles that affect men as well. They're their own worst enemies. The research involved 473 single heterosexual men aged 18 to 35 with an average of 26 years old. And each participant was compensated. It included a variety of psychological assessments to evaluate hostile sexism, misogyny, self-perceived attractiveness, sensitivity to rejection, loneliness, gaming habits, gaming addiction symptoms, and right-wing authoritarianism. So they were trying to separate the Chads from the Incels, and what they found out in the end is that the Chads and the Incels feel the exact same way toward women.
That's very, very strange. The whole thing. I imagine that putting out studies like this is just cake now because people are talking about themselves. So like they're like, oh yeah, you'll give me an Amazon gift card to rate myself. Let's freaking go.
But I remember as this headline was going viral, people were saying, oh, this makes total sense because all the hot guys who get all the women have interacted with women more, so they realize that women suck. And then the unattractive guys are so bitter about being rejected that they think women suck.
I think if you're a hot guy, it's not just that they've interacted with a lot of girls. Women will throw themselves at guys like that, and so
it's unbecoming.
So it's unbecoming, so they lose respect. So they're just like, oh, you know,
some
as a class.
But it also makes them easier to impress, right? If you don't throw yourself at a guy, that means he's if he's used to that means he's easier to impress.
Yes, but I don't know that. Like, I'm not sure that women can do that.
Can do
like, so the like for guys, like if guys don't throw themselves at women, then you have a better chance of being interesting to her, right? If you're throwing yourself at a woman, she's going to find that unattractive. You're going to seem desperate. You're going to get the ick, whatever. Women that see a guy, especially if she's a fairly attractive woman, women that see a guy that's very attractive, they expect him to respond because all their lives men have responded. So that if they think, well, if I go ahead and I approach him, I'm guys are always throwing themselves at me, so I'm I must be a 10, even if she's like a 7 or an 8. And so like she approaches the guy and the guy's like, well, I'm not interested, and then it's like, it becomes uninteresting to the guy. It's like, oh well, she's not that hot, and she's blah blah blah. Or there's a hotter girl that I could go talk to that even if so I feel like the throwing themselves at guys doesn't work.
Well, yeah. I'm just saying if you refrain from doing that, that could make things a lot easier if a guy is used to women being unbecoming in throwing themselves and making it easy is what they say. That would mean he's easier to impress.
I just don't understand what the right-wing authoritarianism has anything to do with this.
The gaming part too was funny to me. They're trying to find out whether gamers are more misogynistic.
This feels very pointed.
Oh yeah,
as if they're looking for they want a specific answer.
Well, scientists are all perfectly objective observers, right?
Of course, no scientist is.
That's why we believe the science.
Yep,
Brett.
That's exactly right.
But someone pointed out, we know from past research that unattractive people and average people overestimate their own attractiveness, and highly attractive people underestimate, but not as much. So basically everyone thinks that they're slightly above average. Like everyone thinks they're a 6 or a 7 is what past research has found. So having them self-rate is making your entire study useless to us. Yeah. It says more about someone's mindset, I guess, if they rate themselves a 0 or a 10.
Yeah.
And that makes entirely perfect sense why a guy who thinks he's a 10 thinks he's better than that he's too good for these bitches, and why a guy who thinks he's a 0 thinks that women will never regard him as a human being.
One's vitriol and one's hubris.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So I mean, the results
of the
make
human
sense.
Condition. Like those are that's just kind of the manifestation of like the bad side effects of the opposite ends of the human condition. That people just end up that way. So what that says to me, guys, find yourself firmly in the middle. Apparently ambivalence is the way to go. Rate yourself, what's the thing, like everybody needs their lovable mid? Like,
oh yeah, that's
everybody needs to rate themselves a lovable mid.
Yeah, I've even seen guys saying that their own wife is mid, and I'm like, okay, the brain rot got to you.
No,
this
it is
insane.
It absolutely
You can't say shit like that. Even if you think it, that's a problem. But you definitely shouldn't say it to the internet and put your wife on blast like that. It's crazy.
That is bonkers.
I mean, people are just artificially introduced to so much more variety than otherwise.
That's a huge part of it.
They would have had.
I've said all the time on the shows, like, look, there's this cancer within dating and within relationships now where everyone always thinks that you can do just a little bit better.
They're always looking to chase after the novelty.
And it's got nothing to do with whether they're a good match for you. It's got nothing to do whether you can build a good life together. It's this desire for just a little bit more, for maybe just a little bit better. When what I said earlier to you is that it's a superpower. It's a life hack to find something amazing and be grateful for something that's amazing. And the internet makes that hard for a lot of people. And that sucks because they're going to lose out on all of the benefits of whether it's, falling in love, getting married, having kids. And it's sad, but these types of studies aren't helping because they're somehow trying to tie it to politics.
There's a lot of people who talk about dating apps giving women a totally warped perception of their own value in the dating market and their own attractiveness, which I do think is credible. However, the opposite is true as well, or the corollary for men if they are swiping on dating apps nonstop and getting no matches, they're going to have a warped self-perception as well, but in the opposite direction, thinking I'm worthless.
Yeah.
No women want me. I am going to be alone forever.
Remember,
it creates this doomer mindset. And we've talked about how dating apps are struggling right now. They're losing people. They're not as popular as they used to be. But they exist solely because some small subset of people are addicted to them.
Also remember, guys, the internet believes that Margot Robbie is mid. So
yeah, you just can't. You can't
trust the internet anymore.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.